The first time Mike suggested we go camping at Blackwater Lake, I said no. Something about that place gave me the creeps, even though I'd never been there. But Mike had a way of wearing people down. 3 weeks of him sending photos of pristine waters and talking about the meteor shower we'd be able to see finally broke me. Fine, I told him, but you're bringing the good coffee this time. That's how we ended up there on a Friday evening in late September, setting up our tent about 30 yards from the shoreline. The lake stretched out before us, still as glass, mirroring the pine trees that surrounded it. We were completely alone. The camping season was practically over, and the more popular spots were closer to the main road anyway. Mike was in his element, unpacking gear and talking about some girl from his economics class. I half listened while setting up the fire pit, my mind wandering to the geology paper I should have been working on instead. The sun was starting to set behind the mountains, casting long shadows across our campsite. "Earth to John," Mike said, snapping his fingers in front of my face. "Dude, you've been staring at those rocks for like 5 minutes. I blinked, realizing I'd zoned out completely. Sorry, just thinking about school stuff. But that wasn't entirely true. Since we'd arrived, I'd had this strange feeling at the base of my skull, like a pressure or a humming that wasn't quite sound. I rubbed the back of my neck, trying to ease it. "School can wait. We're here to disconnect, remember?" Mike tossed me a beer from the cooler. "Besides, wait until you see the stars out here. No light pollution." He was right about that. As darkness fell, the sky transformed into something I'd only seen in astronomy textbooks. The Milky Way stretched across the blackness, and stars, thousands of them, punctured the night. We sat by the fire, pointing out constellations and satellites passing overhead, the beer making everything comfortably hazy. "You feeling better now?" Mike asked, poking at the fire with a stick. I nodded, though that strange sensation hadn't left the base of my skull. If anything, it was getting stronger. Yeah, this was a good idea. Around midnight, Mike crawled into the tent, but I wasn't ready to sleep. "I'm gonna stay up a bit longer," I told him. "Watch for meteors." "Suit yourself," he mumbled, already half asleep. The fire had died down to glowing embers. I leaned back in my camp chair, looking up at the vast starscape, feeling small and somehow significant at the same time. That's when I noticed it, a star that seemed to pulse slightly. I sat up straighter, focusing on it. Stars don't pulse like that, not to the naked eye. Maybe it was a satellite? But it wasn't moving across the sky. It just hung there, pulsing faintly. The pressure at the base of my skull intensified, and my ears popped suddenly as if I'd changed altitude. The silence around the lake deepened. I couldn't hear crickets or the rustle of night animals anymore. Just nothing. A perfect vacuum of sound. I stood up, my heart beginning to race for no reason I could identify. Something felt wrong. The pulsing light seemed brighter now, and I could swear it had moved position slightly. I glanced at the tent where Mike was sleeping, wondering if I should wake him. That's when the surface of the lake began to ripple. There was no wind, not even the slightest breeze, but the water moved as if something massive was disturbing it from below. My body tensed, fight or flight instinct kicking in hard. The ripples formed perfect concentric circles emanating from the center of the lake, and the water seemed to glow with a faint bluish luminescence that definitely wasn't reflected starlight. "Mike!" I called out, my voice sounding strange and muffled in the unnatural silence. "Mike, you need to see this." No response from the tent. The pressure in my head was becoming painful now, and my vision started to blur around the edges. The pulsing light above was definitely larger, no longer resembling a star but something else entirely, something descending. I took a step toward the tent, but my legs felt wooden, unresponsive. Another step. It was like moving through molasses. "Mike!" I tried to shout, but my voice came out as barely a whisper. The light from above was reflecting off the lake now, turning the water into a mirror of pulsing blue-white light. The air felt charged, like just before a lightning strike. My skin tingled all over, hair standing on end. With enormous effort, I managed to reach the tent and grab the zipper. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip it. As I pulled it down, the blue light intensified to an almost unbearable brightness. "Mike, wake up, something's—" The tent was empty. Mike's sleeping bag lay there, unzipped and empty, as if he'd just gotten up. But I would have seen him if he'd left the tent. There was nowhere he could have gone without passing by me. My mind struggled to process this impossibility when a high-pitched tone pierced through the silence, drilling into my eardrums. I pressed my hands against my ears, but it didn't help. The sound seemed to be coming from inside my head. The blue light from the lake suddenly shot upward in a column, connecting water to sky, so bright I had to shield my eyes. Through my fingers, I saw something impossible. The water of the lake rising upward in defiance of gravity, forming a twisting column that reached toward the pulsing light above. Time seemed to stutter. I remember dropping to my knees, the pressure in my head unbearable. I remember the column of water hovering 20 feet above the lake's surface, suspended impossibly in midair. I remember seeing something moving within that column, a dark silhouette that might have been human-shaped. And then everything went black. I woke up as sunrise broke over the mountains, lying face down in the dirt beside the cold remains of our fire. My clothes were soaked through as if I'd been swimming, but I had no memory of entering the lake. My watch read 6:17 a.m. The lake was perfectly still again, showing no evidence of the impossible things I'd seen. I called out for Mike, my voice hoarse. Silence answered me. I checked the tent again. His sleeping bag was there, but he wasn't. His phone lay on top of it, along with his wallet and car keys. His boots were still neatly placed at the tent entrance. Panic rising, I searched the campsite, then the shoreline, calling his name until my voice gave out. No sign of him anywhere. No footprints leading away from camp. Nothing disturbed except for my own chaotic trail through the dirt. I tried to piece together what had happened, but my memories were fragmented, distorted. Had I dreamed the whole thing? Had I been sleepwalking? But that didn't explain Mike's absence. As I stood at the edge of the lake, staring at the calm water, something caught my eye. A perfect circle of dead fish floating on the surface, right in the center of the lake. Dozens of them, belly up, arranged in an unnaturally perfect circle about 20 feet in diameter. My hand went to the back of my neck, where the strange pressure had been, and I felt something that made my blood run cold. A small, perfectly round raised mark that hadn't been there the day before. It didn't hurt when I touched it, but I could feel something hard just beneath the skin, like a grain of rice. That's when I noticed my phone in my hand was dead. So was my flashlight, and the camping lantern. Everything electronic we'd brought was completely drained of power. I stood there shivering despite the morning sun, the truth sinking in with terrible certainty. Mike was gone, and whatever had taken him in the night had left something behind in me. The police didn't believe me. Not really. They nodded and took notes while I talked, but I could see it in their eyes. They thought I was either lying or crazy. They dragged the lake for 3 days. Found nothing, not even those dead fish I'd seen. By the time they arrived, the circle had dispersed, scattered by the wind across the water. Just normal fish deaths, they said. Happens all the time due to oxygen depletion. But they couldn't explain Mike's disappearance. His sleeping bag with no signs of struggle, his wallet, phone, and car keys left behind. His family was devastated, his mother collapsing when I tried to explain what happened. What could I say? That lights came from the sky? That the lake water rose up like something out of the Bible? That I woke up soaking wet with no memory of how I got that way? I stopped trying to tell the truth after the second detective asked if I'd been taking any recreational drugs. I moved back in with my parents after missing 2 weeks of classes. I couldn't focus, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that pulsing light, felt that pressure in my skull. My dad tried to get me to talk to someone, a therapist, a priest, anyone, but I couldn't. How could I explain what I didn't understand myself? The mark on my neck remained, that small raised circle just below my hairline. I became obsessed with it, checking it multiple times a day in the mirror, taking photos to see if it changed. Sometimes it seemed to throb in sync with my heartbeat. Other times, usually at night, it would grow warm to the touch. I started wearing collared shirts and letting my hair grow longer to hide it. About 3 weeks after that night at Blackwater Lake, the headaches began. Not ordinary headaches. It felt like something inside my skull was pressing outward, trying to escape. They'd come without warning, leaving me doubled over, clutching my head, seeing flashes of blue light behind my eyelids. The worst was when they happened at night. I'd wake up screaming, my sheets soaked with sweat, convinced there was something, standing at the foot of my bed, watching me. My parents were worried sick. They thought I was having a breakdown because of what happened to Mike. Post-traumatic stress, the doctor called it. He prescribed pills that made me feel hollow and distant. I stopped taking them after a week. I needed to stay sharp, to remember, because I was starting to remember things. Fragments, flashes of memory from that night that my mind had locked away. I'd be brushing my teeth or driving to the store when suddenly I'd see a vivid image. Mike's body suspended in that column of water, his eyes open but unseeing, or strange, elongated shadows moving along the lakeshore, or the sensation of cold, impossibly thin fingers examining my face while I couldn't move. I started researching. First online, reading through forums and websites about alien abductions and strange disappearances. Most of it was clearly fake, elaborate stories crafted for attention. But some accounts made my blood run cold with their familiarity. People describing the exact same pressure in their skulls, the same perfect circular marks left behind, the same inexplicable loss of time. I drove back to Blackwater Lake 6 weeks after it happened. I don't know what I expected to find. Evidence, maybe. Some sign that I wasn't losing my mind. The campsite had been cleared away by rangers. No trace of our presence remained. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the water, trying to force myself to walk down to the shore. I couldn't do it. Something primal in me, some deep survival instinct, wouldn't let me get any closer. As I sat there, a park ranger tapped on my window, startling me. He asked if I needed directions. I almost said no, but something made me show him a picture of Mike on my phone. Have you seen this person recently? He went missing from here about 6 weeks ago. The ranger studied the photo, then looked at me strangely. You're that guy's friend, aren't you? The one who reported him missing. I nodded. He glanced around, then lowered his voice. Look, I shouldn't tell you this, but you're not the first person to come back looking. There's been others over the years. People who lost someone here. My heart started pounding. What do you mean? This lake, it has a history. Nothing official in the records, you understand? But us old-timers, we know. Every few years someone goes missing, always at night, always without a trace. Why isn't this common knowledge? I demanded, suddenly angry. Why isn't there a warning sign or something? He shrugged, looking uncomfortable. Tourism dollars. County doesn't want to scare people away from one of the prettiest camping spots in the state because of some old stories. Besides, it's rare enough that they can write it off as hiking accidents, people wandering off trail. Did the others... I hesitated, not sure I wanted to know. Did the other missing people ever turn up? His eyes met mine, and I saw genuine pity there. No, son, they never did. I thanked him and drove home in a daze, his words echoing in my head. A history of disappearances. Others before Mike. Others before me. That night, I had the most vivid dream yet. I was back at the lake, but I wasn't myself. I was seeing through Mike's eyes. I was inside the tent, drifting in and out of sleep when a soft blue light filtered through the fabric. There was no fear, only a strange, compelling curiosity. He unzipped the sleeping bag and moved toward the tent entrance in a dreamlike state. Outside, the world had transformed. The air shimmered with particles of light, and the lake had opened somehow, revealing a swirling vortex of luminescent water. Beautiful, terrifying, mesmerizing. Mike walked toward it, each step bringing a deeper sense of peace and purpose. He wasn't afraid. He wanted to go, needed to go. As he reached the shore, figures emerged from the vortex. Tall, slender shadows with limbs that moved in ways that weren't quite right. They reached for him, and he reached back, his mind flooding with images and sensations too complex to comprehend. Then a shift in perspective. I was myself again, watching from a distance as Mike was guided into the water, into the light. I tried to scream, tried to run toward him, but I couldn't move. One of the figures turned toward me, its face featureless except for large, black eyes that reflected nothing. It tilted its head, studying me. Then it raised a hand, pointing directly at me. I woke up gasping for air, the mark on my neck burning like a hot coal pressed against my skin. My room was filled with a faint blue glow that faded as I sat up. The digital clock by my bed was flashing 3:33 a.m., reset as if there had been a power outage. With shaking hands, I reached for my phone to use as a flashlight. The battery was completely drained, though I'd charged it before going to bed. As I fumbled in the dark for the lamp switch, my hand brushed against something on my bedside table that shouldn't have been there, something small and hard and unfamiliar. When I finally got the lamp on, I stared in disbelief at what sat on my nightstand. A small, smooth black stone, perfectly round like a marble, but heavier, with faint blue veins running through it. A stone I'd never seen before, that hadn't been there when I went to sleep. And written in the condensation on my bedroom window, readable from the inside, was a message in Mike's unmistakable handwriting. "They're coming back for you." I didn't tell anyone about the stone or the message on the window. How could I? My parents already looked at me like I was fragile, broken. If I told them I was receiving messages from my missing friend, they'd have me committed. So I kept it to myself, hiding the black stone in my pocket, running my fingers over its impossibly smooth surface whenever the anxiety threatened to overwhelm me. The message had disappeared by morning. The condensation evaporated without a trace. I took photos, but they showed nothing, just a normal window. It was as if reality itself was gaslighting me. But the stone remained, solid and undeniable. When I held it in my palm, it grew warm, and sometimes, though I might have imagined this, it seemed to pulse in rhythm with the mark on my neck. I dropped out of college officially the following week. My professors had been understanding at first, but their patience had limits. I couldn't focus on geology or anything else while these questions consumed me. My dad was disappointed but didn't say much. My mom cried. I think they both believed I'd eventually get over it and go back. They didn't understand that there was no going back, not to the person I was before. I found others online who claimed to have experienced similar things. Most were obviously delusional or attention-seeking, but a few seemed genuine. I connected with them through encrypted messaging apps, sharing details I wouldn't dare tell anyone in my real life. One woman, Elise, had lost her sister near a lake in Minnesota 7 years ago. The circumstances were eerily similar. A camping trip, a disappearance with no signs of struggle, authorities chalking it up to drowning despite never finding a body. Elise and I talked nearly every day. She'd spent years researching these incidents, mapping them, looking for patterns. According to her data, they clustered around bodies of water with unusual mineral compositions, places where the barrier between something was thinner. They used the water somehow, she told me once, as a conduit or a gateway. I asked if she'd ever received any sign from her sister after the disappearance. She went quiet for so long I thought the connection had dropped. Finally, she responded, "Yes, once, 3 years after. A black stone appeared on my pillow one night, perfectly round, with blue veins running through it. My blood ran cold. I hadn't told her about my stone. What happened after that?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, though I was alone in my room. "They came for me too," she said. "But I was ready. I ran." She wouldn't elaborate further, and 3 days later, her account went dark. All our message history disappeared. When I tried to search for her online, it was as if she had never existed. I became obsessed with the pattern she'd identified. Bodies of water with unusual mineral compositions. I dug through geological surveys of Blackwater Lake, and sure enough, it contained abnormally high levels of rare earth elements, particularly neodymium and gadolinium. Elements used in advanced electronics and superconductors. The headaches grew worse, more frequent. Sometimes they brought visions, brief flashes of places I'd never been, creatures I couldn't fully comprehend. I started drawing what I saw, covering my walls with sketches of fragmented memories, elongated limbs, impossibly thin fingers, eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. My room became a shrine to my madness, or my awakening. I wasn't sure which anymore. The mark on my neck changed too. The skin around it took on a faint bluish tint, and those blue veins I'd seen in the stone seemed to be spreading outward from the mark, just beneath my skin. Thin lines, barely visible except under certain light, branching down toward my shoulder and up into my hairline. 73 days after Mike disappeared, I woke at exactly 3:33 a.m., my body rigid with the certainty that I wasn't alone. The air in my bedroom felt charged, heavy with static electricity. My bedside lamp flickered without me touching it. The black stone on my nightstand was glowing, those blue veins pulsing with internal light. "Mike," I whispered into the darkness. No answer, but the air seemed to shift and move in a way that wasn't natural. The shadows in the corners of my room deepened, expanded. I couldn't move, couldn't even reach for the light switch. All I could do was lie there, heart hammering against my ribs as something gathered itself from the darkness. It wasn't Mike. It wasn't human at all. What stepped from the shadows was tall and thin, its proportions all wrong, like someone had taken a human form and stretched it. Its skin, if you could call it that, absorbed the faint light from the stone rather than reflected it, creating an outline of perfect darkness. I couldn't see its face clearly, Just those eyes. Large, black, depthless. I should have screamed, should have fought or fled. But the moment it fully materialized, the pressure in my skull intensified, and with it came an overwhelming sense of calm. Not my own emotion, I realized with distant horror. Something imposed on me. My fear was still there, buried deep, screaming from behind a wall of artificial tranquility. It moved toward my bed without seeming to walk, more like it flowed across the room. One long, thin arm extended, 4 slender fingers reaching toward my face. I couldn't move, couldn't look away from those bottomless eyes. Time seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously. Its fingers were cold when they touched my forehead, but not unpleasantly so, more like the cool side of a pillow. And with that touch came images, flooding into my mind faster than I could process them. Stars from perspectives I'd never seen, vast structures suspended in empty space, beings of light moving through environments I couldn't comprehend, and water, always water, in impossible formations, defying gravity and physics. Among this cascade of alien imagery, I saw Mike, not as I remembered him, but changed. His eyes were different, larger, darker, reflecting the same starscapes I'd just witnessed. He was looking directly at me, his expression serene but somehow sad. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words that came weren't in any human language. Yet somehow, I understood. They need to understand us before they can return us. I am still learning. You will learn too. The connection broke as suddenly as it had formed. The being withdrew its hand, tilting its head as if listening to something I couldn't hear. It looked toward my window, then back at me. For a moment I felt something like curiosity emanating from it. Not warm or emotional like human curiosity, but cold and analytical. Then it was gone. Not dramatically, not with a flash or sound. One moment it was there, and the next, the shadows were just shadows again. The air lightened. My body relaxed, control returning to my limbs. The stone on my nightstand dimmed, returning to its ordinary appearance. I lay there until dawn, unable to move, unable to process what had happened. When the first light of morning filtered through my curtains, I finally found the courage to get up. My legs were wobbly, barely supporting my weight as I stumbled to the bathroom. In the mirror, I hardly recognized myself. My face was gaunt, eyes sunken with dark circles beneath them. But that wasn't what made my breath catch in my throat. The mark on my neck had changed drastically. What had been a small circle was now an intricate pattern of lines and curves, like a circuit board etched into my skin in faintly luminescent blue. The lines branched outward, following my veins down my shoulder and chest. I pressed my fingers against it, feeling the slight ridge of altered tissue. It wasn't painful, but it responded to my touch, the blue glow intensifying slightly, a faint warmth spreading from the contact. On my way back to my bedroom, I noticed something on the hallway floor. Water. A trail of small puddles leading from my room to the bathroom, then down the stairs. Water that smelled of lake algae and minerals. I followed the trail through the house, down to the front door, which stood slightly ajar, though I knew I'd locked it the night before. The water trail continued outside, across our front yard, ending at the street. As I stood there in my pajamas staring at the last puddle, my phone chimed with a notification. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Look up geological survey maps for the area beneath your house. There's groundwater, deep, but they can use it. 3 days. Be ready or run. Elise. It had to be. And as I stood there, the morning sun warming my skin, I realized I had a decision to make. I could run, like she had, or I could be ready. Ready for what? I wasn't entirely sure. But the stone in my pocket pulsed warmly, and the mark on my neck throbbed in response, and I knew with sudden clarity that Mike wasn't gone forever. Whatever had taken him, whatever had visited me in the night, it was coming back. And next time, it might not leave without me. I went inside and started packing a bag. Not to run, to be ready. The countdown had begun. 3 days. I spent them preparing, though I had no idea what I was preparing for. I bought camping supplies, a new flashlight, batteries, water purification tablets. I studied maps of the underground water table in our area. Sure enough, there was a deep aquifer running beneath our subdivision, connected to a network of underground streams that eventually fed into Blackwater Lake 12 miles away. Water. Always water. I didn't tell my parents what was happening. What could I say? They were already worried enough. watching me with careful eyes as I moved around the house, checking and rechecking my supplies. My mom asked if I was planning a trip. I told her maybe, just a weekend thing to clear my head. She seemed relieved, probably thinking it was a healthy sign, me wanting to get out again. On the morning of the third day, I woke up before dawn. The mark on my neck was hot, pulsing with its own heartbeat. The blue lines had spread further, reaching down my chest and back, following the map of my veins. When I showered, the water sizzled slightly where it touched the marks, steam rising from my skin. My head felt strangely clear. The pressure was still there, but it had transformed from pain into a kind of heightened awareness. Sounds were sharper, colors more vivid. I could feel the vibration of water moving through pipes in the walls. Could sense the electromagnetic fields from the electronics in the house like a faint tingling on my skin. I spent the day in a state of hypervigilance, jumping at every sound, watching the shadows for movement. My parents noticed, exchanging concerned glances when they thought I wasn't looking. Around sunset, I told them I was going to bed early. I wasn't planning to sleep, just wanted to be alone in my room when it happened. Whatever it was going to be. The hours crawled by. 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, nothing. I sat on the edge of my bed, the black stone clutched in my hand, waiting. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., had I misunderstood? Had Elise been wrong? At 3:32 a.m., exactly 1 minute before the time I'd been waking up consistently for months, my bedroom filled with the smell of lake water. The digital display on my clock began to flicker, then went dark. The stone in my hand grew hot, almost too hot to hold, those blue veins glowing through my closed fingers. The water came first, not flooding through the door or window, but seemingly through the very walls themselves. It seeped out of the paint and drywall, defying physics, gathering itself into a floating sphere in the center of my room. It hung there, suspended, rippling with that same blue luminescence I'd seen at the lake. The mark on my neck burned in response, the blue lines across my skin beginning to glow in perfect sync with the pulsing sphere. I wasn't afraid. That was the strangest part. Even as reality broke down around me, even as water flowed upward instead of downward and gathered itself into impossible shapes, I felt only anticipation, readiness, as if some part of me had been waiting for this moment my entire life. The sphere expanded, forming a vertical column that stretched from floor to ceiling. Within its swirling depths, shadows moved and shifted, reaching, searching. The air pressure in the room dropped suddenly, my ears popping painfully. That high-pitched tone I remembered from the lake night filled my head, not coming through my ears but directly into my mind. From the watery column, a figure emerged, the same tall, thin being that had visited me before. But this time it wasn't alone. Another figure followed, smaller, its proportions more human. Mike, but not Mike as I remembered him. His skin had the same light-absorbing quality as the taller beings, and his eyes were entirely black now, reflecting starlight that wasn't present in my bedroom. He moved differently, too. His gestures too fluid, too precise. When he saw me, his head tilted at the exact same angle the aliens had during our previous encounter. John. His voice was still his own, but with an undertone of something else, like two voices speaking in perfect unison. You waited. Good. Mike? My voice cracked. Is it really you? What happened to you? He smiled, but the expression didn't reach those black, star-filled eyes. I'm still becoming, learning, changing. He gestured to the taller being beside him. They've been watching us for so long, learning our language, but they needed to understand how we think, how we feel. They needed samples. They took you, I said. It wasn't a question. Mike nodded. And now they need you too. The connection has already begun. He gestured to the glowing lines across my skin. Your transformation is happening faster than mine did. You're more compatible somehow. Compatible with what? I asked, though some part of me already knew. With them, with what they are. Mike moved closer, his movements unnervingly smooth. They're not like us, John. They don't have bodies the way we do. What you're seeing is just a translation, something your brain can process. Their real form is... He paused, struggling for words. It's beautiful, like living light, like thought given form. The tall being moved forward, its black eyes fixed on me. I felt its consciousness brush against mine, Not invasive, but questioning, curious. They've been here longer than us, Mike continued. In the deep waters, in the spaces between, watching, learning. They say they've influenced our evolution from the beginning, guided us, and now they need some of us to join them, to become bridges. Bridges to what? I asked, my mouth dry. To what comes next? Mike's expression was serene, distant. There's so much more, John. So much beyond what we can see or understand. They want to show us. They're not taking us away. They're letting us in. The tall being extended one long, thin arm toward me, its 4 fingers splayed. The same gesture from before. An invitation. It doesn't hurt, Mike said softly. And you don't lose yourself. You just expand, become more. I looked at what my friend had become, still recognizably Mike in form, but fundamentally changed in some way I couldn't fully articulate. Was he still human? Was he still himself? Or was he something else now, wearing Mike's memories like a costume? I don't know if I want this, I whispered. You already started the process when you took the stone, Mike said. The mark on your neck, the changes in your body, it's already happening. You can come with us willingly, or... His voice trailed off, those star-filled eyes unblinking. The column of water pulsed brighter, and within its depths, I caught glimpses of other shapes moving. Other beings. Maybe other humans who had been taken, transformed, waiting. What happens if I say no? I asked. Mike's expression shifted, something like sadness passing across his features. Then they'll take what they need anyway. The connection has already been established, but it's better if you choose it, John. It's better if you understand. I thought about running, about screaming for my parents down the hall, but something told me it wouldn't matter. Whatever was happening existed in a bubble of altered reality where normal rules didn't apply, where water could flow upward and beings could step through from somewhere else. I looked at the stone in my hand, its blue veins pulsing in time with the marks on my skin. I thought about Elise's warning, be ready or run. I thought she meant run away, but now I wondered, had she meant run toward, accept, embrace? Will I see you again? I asked my parents' house, my old life. Will I remember? You'll remember everything, Mike said, and you'll see more than you ever imagined possible. He extended his hand to me, mirroring the taller being's gesture. It's time, John. In that moment, standing in my childhood bedroom with reality breaking down around me, I made my choice. I reached out, taking Mike's hand in mine. His skin was cool and strange, vibrating slightly at a frequency I could feel through my bones. The moment our fingers touched, the blue lines across my skin flared brilliantly, and the pressure in my skull expanded outward like a supernova. I saw everything at once, the lake that night, the countless others who had been taken before, the vast network of beings connected through water across the globe, across time. I saw structures of living light beneath the ocean floors, within the ice caps, inside the deepest underground aquifers. I saw their purpose, their plan, unfolding across millennia. I saw what they wanted to become, what we would help them become, and I understood why they needed us, why they needed our bodies, our minds, our capacity for emotion and intuition and imagination. They were ancient and vast and cold, but they were incomplete. We were the missing piece they'd been cultivating for thousands of years, not their servants or their subjects, their collaborators, their children, their future. Mike pulled me forward, toward the column of water. The tall being reached out, those impossibly thin fingers touching my forehead. Ice and fire raced through my veins simultaneously. The blue lines across my skin brightened until they outshone the water itself, until my whole body seemed to be turning into light from the inside out. I stepped into the water, but it wasn't wet. It felt like stepping through a membrane, a threshold between states of being. On the other side was everything, all at once. Too much for my human mind to comprehend in its entirety. I looked back, just once, at my room, at the life I was leaving behind. My parents would wake tomorrow to find me gone. Another disappearance, another mystery. They would suffer. They would search. They would never understand. That knowledge brought a pang of human regret that cut through the euphoria of transformation. But it was too late now. The process had begun long before tonight, perhaps even before that night at the lake. Perhaps from the moment I was born. The last thing I saw as the water closed around me was my reflection in my bedroom mirror. my eyes already beginning to change, darkness spreading across them like ink in water, stars appearing in their depths. My skin taking on that same light-absorbing quality, my humanity draining away, replaced by something older, colder, vaster. Not entirely gone, just reconfigured, expanded. I don't know how long it's been since that night. Time moves differently where I am now. Sometimes I catch glimpses of the surface world, cities, people, sunlight. Sometimes I recognize places I once knew. But mostly, I'm elsewhere. In the depths, in the spaces between spaces, learning what I am becoming, what we are all becoming, together. The transformation isn't complete. They say it takes years for a human mind to fully adapt, to comprehend the totality of their existence. I still retain enough of myself to record this, to reach back and send these words as a warning, or an invitation. I'm not sure which anymore. They're coming for more of us. The bridges are being built. The merging has begun. If you're near water, any water, they can find you. They can reach you. They can mark you like they marked me, like they've marked thousands of others throughout human history. Look for the signs. Unexplained disappearances near bodies of water, electronic malfunctions, dreams of drowning that don't feel like dreams, strange marks on your skin that weren't there before, and if you find a smooth black stone with blue veins running through it, well, by then, it's already too late. They're watching you through every raindrop, every glass of water, every tear that falls from your eye. The choice they offer isn't really a choice at all, but the journey, the transformation, that's real. And what waits on the other side is more vast and terrible and beautiful than anything your human mind can comprehend. I know, because I'm becoming it. We all are, one by one, drop by drop, until the bridge is complete. If you've experienced strange encounters near water or unexplained phenomena, share your story in the comments below. Do you believe they're already here among us, watching from the depths? Or is this all just in our imagination?